So when it comes to pots and pans, not all pots and pans are created equal. They're made out of different materials. And so the way that you are going to clean individual pans is going to be determined by the type of material that it is. So it's really important to make sure that you do follow the proper cleaning because you can ruin or destroy a very expensive piece of equipment. You also want to make sure that your equipment has the NSF, and that means that it has been approved for food production in the commercial setting. It's also really important that you make sure that pots and pans cool before you submerge them into water. If you have something that is really hot, it has expanded. And so if you have glass or metal and you submerge it down into cooler water, then with glass, it's generally going to shatter. And with metal, it can warp it and create a bowed effect, or it can cause a crack in it. And then you have ruined that piece of equipment. For aluminum, aluminum is generally recognized because it is not shiny. And for aluminum, you do want to hand wash it in soapy water, and you can use a non-abrasive cleaner to remove stains. You also generally do not ever want to cook something reactive in the aluminum, like a tomato product. They can cause discoloration, both to the pan and in your food, which can be undesirable. For aluminum, it can get water stains, particularly here in Kentucky where we have hard water with quite a bit of limestone in it. And I have found that a little baking soda and vinegar does really well, or I'll fill it full of water and put some vinegar in there and kind of boil a little vinegar water in there or lemon juice, and eventually it will take that stain off of the aluminum. Chrome is generally going to be a lot shinier of a material. And so you have chrome and stainless steel. You want to wash them in warm water, soap or detergent, and do not use an abrasive cleaner. Copper has a really beautiful color and it's also very heat reactive. So it is a really good material to cook in. However, it does discolor and it gets a greenish kind of tinge to the metal. There are commercial cleaners that are designed for cleaning copper, but you can also use just Scrubby and some Dawn, and you can wash it and use a little vinegar or a little lemon juice. An acidic product will take that discoloration off. When it comes to cleaning skillets and pans, my trick is as soon as I'm done cooking, I plate my food so I get the food out of the pan. I don't leave leftovers sitting in the pan before I eat. I go ahead and move them over to my storage. And I put the pan back on the stove and add just a cup of warm water. So I'm not submerging it down into cold water. I just get a glass and put enough water in it to kind of fill the bottom of the pan. And then I go eat. And when I'm done eating and I come back, the food is softened and it's good and the water is good enough. So the trick is don't let the food sit and harden because it's going to be a lot harder to get off after that. So you can see on this picture here, there's eggs on a cast iron skillet, and that is really going to be difficult to remove. You're going to need a lot of muscle power to make that happen. And that's not good for you or the pan. So that's my trick as far as cleaning skillets and pans. A little bit of water goes a long way. There's a video here that's embedded in the PowerPoint on cast iron care specific. I'm not going to play that for you, but it will be linked in your lesson. It's a very short video. It's really good information. Sometimes you end up with burnt on food, and if you have the burnt on food scenario, there's a couple of tricks. You can try the water trick, and if it's not cast iron, you can leave some water sit in it overnight. You can also put a dryer sheet in the water and let that sit for like 30 minutes to overnight. And sometimes that'll magically take it away. So the oils really permeate the burnt on food. And if that doesn't work, then some oven cleaner works really good, but make sure that you are not using oven cleaner on cast iron. If you have a cast iron skillet that has been burnt beyond being able to clean or scrub off, in my classroom with kids, I've dealt with that quite a bit. I've had kids have a grease fire in a pan and it looks like it is just completely destroyed. If you have a cast iron pan, you can actually run it through a self-cleaning cycle of the oven just for a little while, like 30 minutes or an hour, and it will take everything off of the cast iron pan, including the seasoning on the cast iron pan. But you can just reseason. It's a super easy process. So when it comes to cast iron, which I use a lot in the classroom, I use it a lot with students because it gets hot and stays hot. It's easy to manipulate and manage the heat a little bit better. It is not good for saute. It's really hard to pick it up and flip it, but for a lot of the cooking, the searing and the browning, caramelization that we're doing, the cast iron is really good. They're also really inexpensive, and it's very easy to care for them and for me to fix them in the oven when students have messed them up. So I find that it's a little bit easier than an expensive saute pan, which I do use, but I'm a fan of the cast iron. There's a lot of different types. I have a whole other presentation just on the types of cast iron, and so I'm only focusing right now really on the use and care. So again, when I'm done cooking, I get the food out. I put a small amount of water in the pan. It keeps the food from setting up, and it's fantastic. You can wash it in warm sudsy water. There are a lot of people that say don't ever use soap in a cast iron skillet. If you have a well-seasoned cast iron skillet, then that is incorrect. You absolutely can use soap. So you want to use a mild detergent. Usually, unlike with the picture here, I don't usually plunge it down into water, and I certainly don't let it sit in water. I just put a little bit of soap in it and just wash it with my scrubby, and then rinse it and dry it. So I don't put it down in a sink, but I do use a little bit of soap. Afterwards, you want to make sure that you wipe it and that you let it dry. You don't let it air dry; it can rust. To keep it from rusting and to help maintain that seasoning, and seasoning is when the oil polymerizes in the heat and it creates a chemical bond with the iron. High smoke point oils that are mono unsaturated, so liquid high smoke oils are the best ones for that seasoning. My mama always telling me butter, bacon grease was the best. It's really not. It all breaks down to the chemistry and the type of chemical bond, your hydrogen and carbon bonds, and how that actually polymerizes to the coating. I like grape seed oil. I mention that a lot in my class with my students. So grape seed oil, I buy a huge bottle off of Amazon and I use it for both cooking and I use it for seasoning. But after I'm done with washing the cast iron, I rub a very thin layer of the grapeseed oil back on my cast iron, and I either put it back on the stove, or I'll put it in the oven, and I'll bring it to smoke point, which is maybe about 400 degrees if I'm doing it in the oven, for just a minute or two, and then I just shut it off and I let it cool. So the oven's great to do that in. So put it in a hot oven, set a timer for about 3 minutes, turn the oven off, and then just walk away and you're good to go. The thing is, after you do the oiling, the bringing it to the smoke point is what causes that polymerization of the oil. So this slide here just kind of goes over what I really just kind of covered. So this is what seasoning is. This is what it does. It protects the iron from the rust or the water. It is non-stick as well, and it's really easy to maintain. And so every time you use your skillet, it does become better. Another tip about maintaining the seasoning on the cast iron skillet is to preheat it properly. So this coating bond that it has is kind of like glass. It's like it's on there, but if you turn it up too high to season it, you can cause that seasoning to crack or flake off. And I actually had this happen with my pan at home, and I was loosening the seasoning in the bottom of my pan, it took me a long time to figure out why. And in my research, I came across this tip. So I completely cooked off all of the seasoning. I re-seasoned my pans completely, because you can't just season one spot. Re-season them completely. Now I preheat it properly and slowly, and I have no more problem, and it works out fantastic. When it comes to the cleaning of pots and pans, these here are your best. So I use these both at home and in my classroom. I have a green one that is. I have a green one that is a little harsher. So this one is a little thicker and a little stiffer for scrubbing. And then I have some of these that are a little softer and a little flimsier. I buy these at the Dollar Tree and I buy them in a big pack. For my classroom, I cut one square into three, and for home, I cut one into two. I throw them away pretty much every day. Like, this is it. Like, this is not, it's going to grow bacteria. Sponges are disgusting. They grow bacteria. I want to make sure that I'm using a nice, clean one. And so this is super cheap. For $1, I can get like 15 of these. For the classroom, I can get a bunch out of five or six. So that's my recommendation. Dollar Tree, Scrubbies, put some soap on there, do some scrubbing. Soft ones for not pots and pans, harsh ones, heavy duty for pots and pans. Stainless steel, you pretty much wash stainless steel, hot soapy water, nice green scrubby, rinse it. You can let stainless steel air dry. A non-stick coating, you do want to make sure you use kind of a plastic or mesh scrubber so that it doesn't scratch. Um, do the water trick, both stainless steel and the non-stick coating. Get your food out, put some water in, go eat, come back, your food is ready to rinse off. Soft scrubby on the non-stainless or on the non-stick coating works just fine. I also have a quick little video here. This is a which pan is right for you, and it really just kind of outlines the difference between stainless steel versus aluminum versus nonstick. It talks about some of the uses and a little bit about the care. Super quick video. Again, this will be embedded in your lesson, so I encourage you to watch this if it's not assigned. And then that's it. Thanks.